Irresistible apps, how to create world-class apps that people love. Hello, everyone. My name is Tessa, and I am here with two awesome people. I'm a marketing strategist, the director of marketing at IdeaPros, helps if I know what I'm doing. And we have Fred Cary, CEO of IdeaPros, and special guest, Jay Mahanga, who is our CTO at IdeaPros. So welcome, Jay, to the show. I know we've had you on a couple times before. So we are picking your brain about apps. That is our all about apps day for today. And so Fred, I'll let you do an intro on this, and then we'll come to three things that we're going to cover today. So stick with us, guys, and let me know you're over in the chat.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Yeah, we want to talk, we give a lot of voice to our physical products, and people that we work with that have apps sometimes say we don't talk about it enough. But I think in general, as you know, this show is really meant for everybody, and it's not meant to promote IdeaPros, but really to promote entrepreneurship. And I see the biggest misconception happening with apps compared to anything else. When you have a physical product, you know the things you need to do. You need to understand why you're building it, who you're building it for, who your customers are, and how to design it, engineer it, get the manufacturing, understand the right price point that people will pay. When people have an app idea, it's all of a sudden, well, I got an app idea, I got to find an app company, and they're going to build this amazing app for me. And they're not doing any of the work that really needs to be done. So there's probably nobody better in the world that I can think of to sit with me, but Jay, go through what it really takes, three different components of it, basically what you do before you design an app, how you design an app, and what happens after it's done. So Jay and I are going to talk about all those things for you. Jay, are you ready?
Always born ready. Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we talk about, somebody, in fact, we have one of our landing pages because we advertise, we want to get the best potential partners to come in and apply to work with us. And when anybody types something about an app idea, our landing page that talks about apps basically says the worst thing you can do is find an app company right away before doing anything else. And could you tell me in the audience what it really takes before you even start building an app?
Yes, building an app, Fred, I think we have discussed this whole week about the misconception of development. I will do a lot of comparison. And anyways, any firm out there today that develop app, this is going to be very informative for them as well. They're probably happy that someone will come out and explain the pain. I consider developer as your general contractor, and I will compare that to those two today moving forward. When anybody have a valid idea of they're trying to solve a problem, and then there's always two problems. Either you're going to run into two different type of developer. Developer will build exactly what you tell them to build, which is anything you see online. It is 20,000 to 30,000 to build right now. That's what you're going to run into. Building an app, and this is why I joined Fred and the team. I built several apps myself and the team. What we realize is that we have a bunch of developer, but doesn't understand how the real world work. And when I say that, it means about how business structures are laid out. And that's a misconception because if you're building something real estate, you have to understand how real estate is operated. What are the software that they're using to run a real estate company? What are the regulations from state to state, from country to countries? It changed. And those information are not known by the developer. Now, preparation of developing, we have to recognize what the ideas are. Now we have to bring in the right team. Usually from the start, there's already 4 team members put together. You have a 2 senior developer, you have a project managers, and you have a designer sitting together in a table, talking about if you have a competitors out there, if there's something already exists that it's similar to what you're bringing into the table, we have to look into what technology was used to build those software, and how much API it's put together, how it's tied in, how the user case. But we always develop it with one question: would we use this app? Because at the end of the day, what are you really building? Have you asked people around in the industry? I know you have an idea, and maybe you're not a real estate agent. Have you asked them what the pain point is? And some of the time we think we have a great idea, but we don't know what the real pain point is. Another things we're really looking into developing an app, which is the most important component, is how are we going to make money, and how are we going to collect data, how we can monetize the full development. Once we put it together, sometime on preparation, Fred, and I know because I've tried to look online, someone pull it together. Majority of the time we're doing a huge scale research, meaning that the senior developers are participating. We're check out books from library because we can't possibly know the industry. It's like handing a blueprint to a contractor. Now, 6 months is too short to build a mansion. We're going to have to sit down and break down what is all required. So very first thing we do is we talk about backlog, and backlog, it's defined in different ways, but to put it in a short times, what the backlog is everything requires to build your software. We do a lot of reading, and we check out 20 to 50 books most of the time, and try to read it to understand what we're building before we even touch anything. So those are the first main component, Fred.
So I just want to go back because I want to recap for everyone. We talked about building your business first. It has to have the business, which is the roadway that you talk about, right, Fred? As far as
So basically, what Jay's alluding to is you just can't start building an app. Just like if you have a physical product, you really understand why you're building it, who you're building it for, what does it do. Would I want it if I was in that business, or if I was a hiker and it was a hiking app, or an eater and an eating app? Would I want this above everything else, and why would I want it? And then finally, the most important, how am I going to make money? This is a business. This is not an app. You got to think of an app as a road, and if you do everything by just building an app and nothing else, you're building a road to nowhere. And that's why you have 10,000 apps every day going into the app store, new apps, and probably 3 of them get downloaded, other than from mom and dad and your uncles and cousins. To Jay's point, before they even start building the front end, even just the little sketches of what that user experience is going to look like, he talks about the backlog. Those are APIs. That's like, where am I going to get the data that I need to have the solution that I want? Right? Is there a database that has that? For example, if I want to build an app that's going to rate wine and talk about different vineyards and everything, I don't want to go out and get 30 people to start rating wine for me. I want to look for those databases. Where are those databases with the wine experts that I can access and put into my app? And that's what Jay does and the team does. After we figure out the business model, then we start looking, but where does this data exist, and can I access that data? And then Jay starts making the decisions on part 2 of this, which is the whole app building process. And Jay, you talked about having a couple of senior guys on each one, and you're talking about salaries of $150,000 to $250,000 for one of those guys. And to your point about we'll build you an app for $30,000. Well, you're not going to build an app that is going to do anything other than help you make a dentist appointment, because anything more serious than that, it's just not going to happen at that price point. So you want to tell us a little bit about the development process and what goes into it? Now we have a business model. We know how we're going to monetize this. We know all our databases, where we're going to get all the information that we need to support our app, our business. what happens next?
Yeah, so once we complete, kind of like we have now a premature backlog. One thing that I have to state, not every times we get the technology we require to build an app. Majority of the existing data, we have to keep in mind that's a very expensive. When we talk about data, it's worth more than gold now. And a lot of few companies that were either we're piggybacking on their technologies, they're not always open about us working with their technologies. And building one app, if we break down one app to do social media, to do payment, to do there's also algorithms have put together. So once we put together, the very first thing we do is we build together a architectures engineer of how we're gonna we map it out. This is your blueprint right now. How are we gonna build it? How many people also is gonna hire? We're gonna hire junior developer, and their job is build the tools. If you build a house, you need guys to build the nail, you need guys to build the hammer, you need people to bring wood. So it's the same thing in development. Then we hire a typical project. We typically have 7 to 9 people right from the start. We're assigning, this is your job, this is your job, this is the API you're working with, and we assemble everything to put together. Now we give it to a designer. A designer's job is to put it together in a user case that is friendly use for the consumer to use, or a business is running. So designer will now design your wireframe or UI UX based on what we gathered together. So we can pay the test. So not pay the test, but we get basically a clickable prototype for the client to test it. We give it to a few other people to test it before we even apply any coding to it. So that's the what I call the.
I have a question about that, Jay, just for 1 second. Go ahead and say what you call that, because that is a good question a lot of our partners ask about. What do you call that phase, the clickable prototype?
Yeah, so you have basically a full app interface that you can play around with it. You can click on it, but there's no coding that support that prototype.
And that's in the backlogs, sort of.
That is correct. Yeah. So to build it, like if I give an estimate time, if we're building a Uber, from everything from backlog all the way to now that we have a clickable prototypes, that takes estimated 6 to 9 months in the real world if you're building. And I talked about this last week. Airbnb took 12 years to build.
I was going to say, you're being really conservative on your time frame right now.
so this is zero coding, and we need to understand it from perspective. Not always we test it ourselves if it breaks, or maybe we don't have access. Home Depot run out of that wood, so we have now to figure out, hey, they don't have a wood for another 6 months. API also have an open and close date. This is another fun fact. They open in business hour, just like every other business, for you to support. So these are things that we, as a developer, have to go through. Again, we talk about the cheap and the expensive build about a business. Think about it. If you get sick, you go into a general doctor's, they give you Tylenol to take. Real developer, we will look what's the cost, where it come from, is there a virus? We'll break it down to find that more in a specialist to define that. Again, so that's what we need. Then we'll go for coding.
One thing, like you said, this is coding or your backlog, and then, or not coding yet, your backlog, your design, you're making sure testing on clickable prototypes, and then you go into coding. which at the end of coding, you also have your beta testing. So people are actually using the app. So we're not even to that part yet. You might have had some people testing it, but that's not beta testing. Common misconception.
Right, and let's talk a little bit more about the coding part, because one thing that we do, again, not to promote IdeaPros, but to promote best practices. One thing that Jay and his team does is provide full documentation of what we do, and you're not going to find any developer out there that does that. And if they do, it's an extra 30 to 50 grand for them to do that for you. So Jake, can you go a little bit more into the kind of now you're doing the back end development and you're doing all the documentation and why that's important?
Yeah, documentations play in for two major part on development. Documentation is playing into your intellectual property, but also for developer, they know the whole scope of the development. So documentations, everything that we done, it's recorded from design perspective, complexities that we figure out to put it down, API, what's the user flow is going to be. We recorded that, and we find out 3-5% of the company, this is what you're taking patent your idea. Most successful app that have sales for lots of money, it wasn't based on the user, people that using the app, is based on what they document and what they patent. TikTok was the newest one, was sold it, the patent on that coding. We're talking about 100 to 1,000 of patent that they had as a company based on the documents, because they proved their point. They claim it, hey, we figured this out, first person to figure it out. We can patent coding, and unfortunately that's mathematic problems. It already exists, but you can patent how you go to market, how your user case has been put together, and that's your claim. So that's how you can lock down what your ideas were. So that documentations right now in the market is 25 to 45,000 value, just the documentation alone. So that is written by specialists. We're talking about senior developers from iOS and Android. When we talk about senior developer, you're talking about 10 to 15 years of experience developer. You become a senior developer after you pass 8 years being in the industry. So that's come from them, right directly for the lawyer who's doing patent, and now you have a patent pool documentations.
And so then you're finished with all the back-end development. You're ready for beta testing. How does that process work, and why is it important?
Yes. So when we go to coding, we have a couple stop for bug test that we have to stop. We have to test it, make sure that a one period in coding line will crash your whole software. That's how critical it is for the build. It's like you have a full car with only one nut that hold the tire. You're gonna have an accident once you get out. So once we develop the whole code base, we do a lot of testing, and once we've finished, now finish also have been determined very wrongly, and I realized that every app that is very successful, every 3 months they have a new upgrade. So you can't possibly build everything that you could think of on your first launch. And this is coming from a working together with a marketing team, what's most important to the consumer, and we're going to launch that. So that's what we refer to as an MVP. Obviously, we scope how the whole development is going to go from A to Z, but we're going to define what's the most important component. Because if you think about it, if you launch your app with every component and you collect 100,000 data or user, your whole back end will collapse because it wasn't built to sustain it. Because if it's a video, a graphic, think of Facebook when Facebook first launched. Take 3 days to a week to upload your first picture. That's how bad it was. But documentation defined your 10-year progress, but not necessarily it's going to be on your first launch from 9 months to a year and a half, maybe 2 years, whatever that time takes. So when we launch it, we beta test it. We're part of a network. This is really good. We have 350,000 developer. We'll first beta test it on an open source. They can tell us, hey, this is broken, this is not broken. That's the very first test that we do. Once that test is finished, we then put it to the App Store. Either we test flight it, we're asking the owner now, and a couple friends and families to test it with ourselves. Once that test is usually take 15 to 30 days, sometimes 45 days if we get extra times on test pilot. We take what we learned that we messed up or we didn't and fix it before our final launch.
And I just want to say that in the local friend, small group of friends, you can make that your beta group of small people that you are going to get advice from, your customers. So not just your family, because your family's not going to tell you. They don't need this app like their audience needs it. So before you go public, you want to make sure that you're talking to your target audience. So that's where you're creating maybe a way for people to sign up and get early notification, or to be part of your beta program and get first dibs at it, or get lifetime. You can offer some really good incentives to get people to truly try out the software, because you want them to click around, you want them to find these problems before you make it public and go with it. What I call soft launch for your betas, and then your real grand opening is what I tell my partners. I'm saying, okay, grand opening is when you've tested it, you have some people have given you feedback. So what you're talking about, Jay, next is the grand opening. Essentially, it's going to be up on the Apple and Google Play stores. Right. Like, I don't do that Android side. You guys clearly know who I am. iOS and Android. So you're going to put it up in the store, and that's going to be kind of your launch at that point, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So we're at that point. We're ready to launch. We put our app on the App Store. You and 9,999 other people this coming Tuesday all launch at the same time. Nobody's getting any traction, and that happens because you're not prepared. It's just like back to physical products. Everybody wants with a physical product, they want to jump on Kickstarter, and 74% of Kickstarter campaigns raise $0, and the average for the rest of them is $7,000. Even though the ones that we do with big marketing firms can regularly do $1 million, so you can see how that 7,000 for the average person is probably a couple $100. They don't make any money because they don't know what they're doing and they don't follow through. So when you launch your app, the whole world is not going to come running to you, and there's several things that you need to do at that point in order to start getting traction. Jay, you want to talk a little bit about those, and I'll talk on the social media side of it.
Yeah, so to prepare traction, so now we're in a different ball game. This is when I build software, regardless of what the first contributions are, we laid out, we built our first MVP. You need 3 things to define success on the success side. If you want to become a good, you need an MVP product, you need a full documentations, and you need data. So by data, you have to do, we're talking about the marketing data, you have to do some kind of a pre-sales. Fred is really good in creating that survey. We run that, see on our beta testing, see if they really want it, and see we can run a petition, see how much people will sign up with your idea. With that information going to the marketing, that's the most expensive part of every successful company. They have to spend the marketing dollars. Now, if we talking to in the real world to define, the louder you are in the market, the more people will know about it. And the only problem with launching it public, it paid a lot of money to get you out there, because you're going to choose platforms where to launch it from two things that we do really well. Celebrity shout out. Fred has a couple friends. Celebrity, if you have a celebrity friend, a few influencer, and we go into video viral. So we create a video with a landing page, full documented. People can look at a video ads so we run an ad spin. It goes straight to your landing page, or it goes straight to the download link. People will download your app. Then you can see how you're doing in 30 days. If your number is doing really well in 30 days, that's what an investor is looking for. That's because you're going to need that money. If you don't bring a real data to the table, the investor will fall asleep. But I think this is also something that we have to prepare. When I first launched my first app, friends and families is who I first pitch it to. Then I grow a little bit more stronger, run some couple campaign before I actually sit down with the real investors. So Fred will take over we'll talk about the social media side of it, but we built also not only are we building an app, we have to build where you work from, a station where we work from. We built a full admin panels, that's where CRM software is connecting to, where everything is happening on the app report to, from sales to, you're going to have to grow your business based on that admin panels that we build at the end. You go from there. There's a lot of fee. APIs are not free. So there's a fee that is attached to it. There's cost. There's a server cost that is attached. It's building your house. Think of building your first house, buy your land. McDonald's and everyone else is building on the side of you also. So your valuation keep growing up. So you have to keep growing. It's the same way how you see building a business. That's how we refer it.
And I just want to say that what you're talking about as far as the costs, there's maintenance costs because you have to have a home, so hosting platform where your app, all the data is living, right, essentially. So you're paying a little bit of your rent, and then you're also paying the rent towards the APIs that you're borrowing. So there are long-term costs for API for your app that you need to be aware of. It also has to be updated regularly, which we talked about. You were saying like the updates come out every 3 to 6. However often, if you just leave your app forever, it's going to break. It's going to break and people will not be happy with you. So be aware of those, plus marketing costs. And Fred, I know you're going to talk about social media, so we'll let you do that as well.
Yeah, and just a minute on that. A lot of the companies that you look at that have millions and millions of downloads, they've spent millions and millions of dollars to get there. We're not just going to launch an app and everybody's going to come to it. And for us, for our partners, and for most people that are trying to do this on their own, they don't have millions and millions of dollars of budget. But we're all business owners and we have to make our business go forward, and the business goes forward by getting downloads. So you have to find other ways to do it. You have to find tricky ways to do it. There are like news articles, you get on local television, find ways to promote your app by doing things that don't really require a lot of money but can get a big audience. And one of those ways is using social media influencers. Instagram, for example. If you can get an influencer that has a few 100,000 followers that is in a field that your app serves, it's like gold. Because once you reach a certain momentum, a certain number of followers, it starts feeding on itself because people talk to their friends. Hey, have you tried this new app? Have you tried this? Have you seen this? And that starts that feeding frenzy that you want to get to. But the first part of that, it's really hard work to get that momentum, to start pushing that bicycle down the hill. And after a certain point, it's going to run on its own. But you got to be prepared to roll up your sleeves and do all the heavy lifting of getting influential people involved with what you're trying to do to really break through. You can also pay for followers, and you have to, but you need to think it's probably could be a couple dollars a piece for followers, and you can be spending a lot of money real fast.
Well, actually, I'd like to just say something, as we have some really amazing statistics as far as how much it costs to get downloads on apps. And generally speaking, $2.50 to $5 per download if you were to do ads for your download. So it is expensive. But you're talking about followers. That's a little bit different. You could be a little less expensive. But downloads themselves, getting them on the App Store, is a little bit more expensive of a process. But we have lots and lots of articles over on IdeaPros and ways for you guys to get these more organically and do it in the guerrilla marketing way. So, but I really am, I know we're right at the end of this call. Is there anything, Fred, that you wanted to definitely cover before we let Jay go? We'll have more from Jay, don't worry. I know I see you guys saying this is a great show over there and you've gotten a lot from it. So Jay's not off the hook for Friday Lives with us yet.
Yeah, the only thing I would close with, again, think of an app the same way you think of a website or even a carrier pigeon, right? It's a method to bring information from one place to another. That's all it is. Your app is your roadway. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're building a road to nowhere. So you have to get your very valuable information, figure out who wants this information, and then build the app to bring it to them, and then know that when they get that information, know what it takes to make them happy, to give you 5-star reviews, and to get them talking about you to all their friends. So again, the app is not the widget, the app is the roadway. What you have is not an app. What you have is really good content that you're delivering with an app. Always keep that in mind. The app isn't the end-all be-all. Your valuable data is. And you're using an app, just like a carrier pigeon, to deliver that data to the people who need it.
A carrier pigeon.
Right? Carrier pigeons provided information. You got it. They went to headquarters, and
I get it. Well, thank you so much, Jay, for being on with us. I'm going to let you and Fred go and keep doing what you're doing and your brilliance over there in the apps and products. And I'm going to talk with our viewers before I'm going to let you go, Jay. But Fred, just 1 second. We have Bill on with us, and he got news for Goliath High-Rise Sports Chair, and I just wanted to bring it up. It is not an app, but we're super, super proud of Goliath High-Rise Sports Chair, who was named winner in top sports fan product category for 2021 by the New York City Herald Board of Directors. So congratulations. Super happy.
And
I don't know what and.
Yesterday, I believe, signed a licensing deal for the product for, I believe it's worldwide, but for all of North America at least. So congrats, Bill. Great job.
Yay, congratulations. I put the link if you guys want to check it out. Please definitely support. Go check it out. It's an amazing product. We have so many app developers of our partners that are on with us right now. So I couldn't even go through everyone, but I do know that we have Recite over there. We have Katie and her app. And all of you guys that are doing apps, we're super proud of you for hanging in there and going through this whole design process.
I could go.
What?
You said I could go.
You can go, Fred. Bye. But I'm going to stay on with you guys because I love you guys. So don't worry. I know we have Sean Reed and he has Sage coming out. And if you are interested in being a beta tester for some of the apps that we have, I know we had a couple people saying they are excited to download the apps that we have coming. Let me know, message us in chat. We'd love to have you participate in beta testing in a friendly, loving environment with us because these are very personal things. Apps are not, it comes from our your soul when you're creating these. And so it is hard to put that out there on the line. So if you're willing to be a beta tester, or if there's specific apps that you think you'd be down to try, let us know. But I'm so glad you guys came. We're here every Friday at noon Pacific time. And I just want to say thanks, Leticia, Odin, Corey, Donna, Kelly, Stephanie, Lindsay, I see you all there. Timbo, great to have you. And I know Katie, I already mentioned you. Vanessa, we have Mary, Gloria, Jason. I am so excited to see you guys all here. And Ray, over on YouTube, we have many people over on YouTube too. And I am going to not be able to pronounce your name right, so bear with me, but I think it's Tufail. Like, you'll have to let me know, message me and tell me how much I butchered that. So, and I am really excited for a couple resources that are coming out. We have over on Fred's Instagram page, there's going to be a podcast that's coming out on Fred's inspirational Instagram side, over on official Fred Cary on Instagram. We also have our shows that will be in a podcast form coming in February, and a resource page for more information. All of these are for any entrepreneur. It's not specifically for our partners. We want this to be for all entrepreneurs. And it's really relevant even if you don't have a product or app, because your services are also this, very similar. So we'll see you guys all next week. Thank you so much for being here with us. Oh, hey, Sally, I didn't get to see you. Oh, thanks. And she says, happy congrats to Bill. All right, guys, we will see you next week, noon Pacific time. Don't forget to hit the bell, and we'll remind you. You can also let us know if you have any questions. That's in the post. There's a Q&A link. You can go ask a question that we can make sure we cover for you. So if there's something we haven't covered in a while, or you just have questions, let us know. We'll make a topic out of it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, more Maddie. Sorry, forgot the Maddie part. We'll see you guys all next week. Bye.